Welcome to Civitai.com, the home of the generative AI art community. If you enjoy this video, please consider hitting us with a like and subscribing, as it'll go a long way in helping us continue to bring you the highest quality AI community content. Please enjoy the video. Twitch, what is up? What is up? What is up? Everybody, welcome to a very special Civitai guest creator session. My name is Tyler. Today, I am joined by Maddie. Go ahead and introduce yourself again for the people.
Hi, I'm Maddie Shimura. I'm working at Civitai as on our partnerships team and also as our EP of AI Film and TV. And excited to dive in today with Albert and talk about how we originally got connected too. But I'll hand it over to him.
Yeah, Albert, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to our fine community and let them know who you are and what you do before we get into this.
Yeah, hi. So I'm Albert Bozesan, and I'm coming to you live from Munich, Germany, where I work for STORYBOOK Studios, an AI film production company. So I'm originally more of a media guy than an AI guy. Started out as a writer, made a bunch of ads, videos, fun stuff, and then discovered AI and Stable Diffusion mostly in 2022. Became one of the first YouTubers to teach it, and then started making images, then videos, and now one of the first children's animation series that we'll show to you and deep dive into, hopefully. Okay. So to start it off here, I feel like being one of the first YouTubers in this space is quite it shows that you are a first mover. So when did that start? And what was like the beginning of the YouTube content for this that you started? And then how quickly, when you started it at the beginning there, since there probably weren't a lot of people doing it yet, how quickly did you kind of see traction start to build for what you were sharing with everyone? Oh, immediately. So the reason I got into it was as a writer, especially in TV and film, you don't really get attention for the writing, unfortunately, because the attention spans of studios are very small and very short. They have a lot of stuff to read. So you try to make your concept pop by illustrating it. Usually I used to do a lot of photoshopping and design work, make a nice booklet with my story in it. And of course, that was a ton of work and just classic collaging. And I needed a bunch of skills that took a lot of time. And when AI came along, of course, you could text prompt and get the image that you wanted. The early ones, not quite, but you basically. And when Stable Diffusion came along, of course, we already got a lot more control than was previously available in the couple online generators that were that existed. And I realized there was very little content teaching how to do this stuff. So I had to struggle through blog posts and, more like 4chan type kind of aggressive texts that were insulting me while I was learning how dumb I was that I didn't figure it out myself. So I went like, okay, no, I'm going to make a nice YouTube video about this and post it. And that pretty much immediately got like 100,000 views. Amazing. And launched me. Yeah.
How did you choose to do YouTube over more of the short form, or there's so many different social media channels, especially for growing that initial audience. How did you align some of the education to that?
I think if I think back on it, I recorded the original tutorial for a friend of mine, and it ended up being long anyway. It was like half an hour long, I think. So, and I was comfortable on YouTube. I wasn't really on TikTok and other shorter platforms yet, so I just posted it there. It's a simple reason.
So how long, and we're going to show, actually, yeah, before we talk anymore, let's show the people the trailer for the most recent thing that you were working on. So before I go ahead and play this, why don't you give a little bit of context here?
Mm-hmm. So we're about to see the trailer for the first episode of Space Vets, which is a kids animation series where our goal was, in our small team, to use as much AI as possible to tell a real narrative as opposed to just a trailer, ironically, because what we've seen so far
have been these very epic videos that look super realistic, but where every clip is just a couple seconds long. Characters don't really look the same, and you can't make a whole story with it. And Space Vets is an 8-minute episode, which has a beginning, has an end. And so I'd say, before I say more, and consistency, as the comments say, thank you, just take a look and keep an eye on how much you think is actually AI and how much was manual work.
Yeah, that was what I was going to actually call out for you guys. So I'm going to show this, and I want you guys to try to spot the points that are AI, knowing that they tried to use as much of it as possible. So here, let's get this going with audio for you guys. Boom. All right.
You've reached the Space Vets. We rescue pets and more.
Hey, hey, supersonic, we are the Space Vets. Cold day and night.
Oh dear, the sun's hotter than 1,000 chilies.
Mom, Lennox is gone.
Oh no.
We'll be there as fast as we can.
Yes, almost got him.
Oh, Lennox.
The ship's out of control.
Oh, all good back there?
All good.
Space Vets, let's go.
Space Vets, let's go.
Dude, that is epic.
Thanks.
And it's part of a 8-minute long full pilot you mentioned, right?
Exactly.
It's not just that one trailer.
Exactly. So this is the trailer to an actual project, and now we have a workflow. So we're already planning episode 2 and can hopefully just continue on like this.
Yeah.
So,
could you speak to some of what went into that project, the tools you used, and really how much time? I think people in the comments are trying to look into it to figure out what's AI, what was manual. But yeah, could you pull back that curtain a little bit?
Absolutely. So as you can probably tell, most of the visuals are AI. So the visuals in the sense that the textures of the 3D models themselves. So all the characters exist in Blender, which is what we used, or you will use more in the future episodes. We had some Cinema 4D in there as well. And the entire production process up to the final render, which happened in a 3D engine, was almost exclusively AI. So we started with the concept art. That was just classic text-to-image prompting, because that's an easy way to iterate and figure out what you're even going for with your style. And then the results we got from that, we used as a P adapter, for example. We had Laura's trained, and were able to build a story world like that. Then sent that through image to 3D processes to actually get those 3D models. I actually have a little slide that I want to show you so you can imagine what that looked like.
Oh, sick. Yeah, share your screen and I'll go ahead and put that up.
It's a little weird that I can't. There we go. So hold on, let me find the slide first. It's not letting me pick the window suddenly. There we go. It's gone again. Oh no. As soon as I slide away from the window, I can't select it anymore.
I think you'll probably have better luck if you just do the entire screen.
Yeah.
There.
So, hold on,
Boom.
but that's my presenter view. It's no good. So there you go. You can see the first one is an image, obviously, that we made with an open pose control net and just kind of an A pose to have the character already in the right pose. The second image is what comes out of the AI, where unfortunately you lose a ton of detail. But you can get that back with various tools. So one of my absolute favorite tools is Stable Projector Z. The human decisions we needed to make were creative direction, art direction. Just like, okay, what are we actually getting from this AI, and what styles can we pick to support that? Because obviously you can't just because you get an image that looks Pixar or Disney quality doesn't mean you're going to get the model for that. So you needed a very flat look. And I think we found a pretty good in between solution there.
Is that software that you were just using? Is that open source, or is that like?
I don't think it's open source, but it's free and available. Yeah, so it's one of many projects where you can just text the Discord dev directly, and he'll fix something for you. It's amazing.
Amazing. That's the best part of open source. Maybe not for the devs, but for us. But to call out that one more time, it was called Stable Projector Z.
Oh, the chat was quicker. It's already in there. Yeah, Stable.
Okay, guy, I just saw that.
Yeah, amazing.
And how did you think about that build versus buy? It seems that many of the solutions you're implementing aren't off the shelf. They're super custom, really unique to what you're doing here. And I know you've started to build out those workflows from your previous projects, but I'm not sure how much overlap there was from the Cirrus and those other films.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's also kind of the moat, if you want, right? Because we're a for-profit business. We want to turn this into a production company that actually creates and sells shows. So I do get the question often, like, why are you giving workshops on this? Why are you talking about what you're doing? Well, it's because of all the in-between steps, right? There are open source solutions available for every single individual thing we do. But what we've built over months, or now over a year at Storybook, is all these little bits of code that just connect different steps, automate different things, the actual Comfy workflows themselves. Because Comfy is free, but what you do with it, right, can be very valuable depending on how well you plug the little nodes together. What's left over from the Cirrus is a lot of the ControlNet stuff, actually. So if we needed some specific poses, we use that. Some concept art, a lot of sketching we did. Just the quick iterations is, I think, an important keyword. Just being able to develop a style quickly and then stick with it. All the learning we did to create our own models.
So for the Space Vets thing, for example. How large is the team? And aside from you, how much of the team working on it had AI experience? And were you the one that kind of had to onboard everyone that didn't really know too much about this into everything?
I, at this point, way too late, actually, have to give a massive shout out to our director of Space Vets, Sebastian Ungrath, which many of you might know as the Butcher's Brain. He's kind of a semi-legend in this sphere already because he made, many of you may have seen this. Yes, he worked on T2. He did the Clark trailer, that Superman reboot thing that was really cool, where he had these crazy shots of Superman running through walls, crashing through doors, just incredible VFX work that he did with AI. So he knows more about AI than I do, for sure. He's the Comfy boss in our team. And so I very much did not have to onboard him. I mostly had to convince him to come work for us. That was my success there. And I'm also lead artist on the project, of course. I had the original idea for Space Vets, and together we did the AI leadership on the project. Equally important is the actual production management. So that's our big advantage at Storybook. We brought people from our sister company, which is just a classic film production company, over to work for Storybook to really do just all the overhead, the budget planning, the day-to-day, just where are we in this production? What frame are we working on today? So Isabel Galfe, we have an actual producer, and Franziska Hanse to do the management, and Tobias Huber as an editor, and that's the core team.
So the main Space Vets thing that is out that you've released already is, you said, 8 minutes long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how much time went into getting from idea inception to finish 8 minutes?
Mm-hmm. We had 60 days, so not total working days, but teamed days. Yeah.
And did that include some of the workflow development too, or
Well, episode 2 would definitely be faster, so a little bit of that, yeah. When we had stuff obviously already developed for previous projects, yeah. But the space vets themselves, including development, 60 days.
Well, that's cool. Like being able to distribute some of those responsibilities for those different key members, but still keeping a relatively tight team. It seemed that
Absolutely.
maybe less than 10 from what I was hearing there across those different stakeholders.
Yeah.
You
I mean, the total credits are 11, so including like music and external screenwriter. So Anna, we had a professional children's author come in to write the actual script and that sort of thing, of course. But yeah, the actual production of it, the team that was involved throughout is 5 people. Yeah.
Speaking of the script and the idea or inspiration behind it, how did you land on, number one, doing a children's TV show, and then the specific narrative that you went with? I think I'm a big believer in that. No matter what tech you're using or how good the visuals are, story really has to be central to that production.
Absolutely. The original decision was kind of hubris. It was an assumption that didn't necessarily prove correct. So a lot of people think, there's the concept of the uncanny valley, right? That many people know already, where it's really hard to make a super real looking human. It tends to end up being a bit creepy. And we kind of hit that wall with the Cirrus, where the trailer is really cool. As soon as you want to do individual scenes, there's too much randomness. Faces start melting. We didn't have lip movements as good as we have now, of course, with current technology. So we said, okay, hey, let's try animation. That might excuse some more mistakes, right? What we ignored, of course, was cartoons and illustration is a very precise craft. Like, because a line needs to be in the same spot in every shot and everything. So that was the reason we picked animation, even though it didn't end up being easier. But the storyline itself, I think it was, my girlfriend's mom is a vet, and I think her job's fascinating, and I love Star Trek. So
it all makes sense now.
Yes. Very, very simple thinking there.
Oh man, that's super cool. So I really enjoy giving our community context for how everything started. Because I know a lot of people that watch everything that we do and that come on and watch these streams are trying to figure out how to find a professional avenue for themselves in all this. So can you just for a few minutes kind of speak to like what you're doing prior to this, and then what event kind of led to you landing this role that you're in now that is widely a AI-centric piece to the puzzle for everything that the studio's doing?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm lucky that I have a skill set where I can make movies and entertainment and write things without AI too. So my intrinsic motivation was just to tell good stories, basically. And AI happens to be a really cool tool for that. If it didn't exist, I would just still be doing it the old-fashioned way. So I don't really, I never really had the whole discussion about what AI is it morally correct? How does it technically work? I didn't have to work too hard to get into it because I was already working with computers a lot anyways. So I was immediately on board from the beginning because it's just an easier way to tell stories. And I, as an artist, had an easier job of it, or quite literally was getting more jobs because of it. So I was immediately positive. And that's what I would tell almost everybody. I mean, in our team, there's nobody who's exclusively working with AI, right? So they all have entertainment backgrounds, either from visual effects or production from various departments. So if you want to get better at AI and you're struggling, even though you have all the comfy setup and you're using ControlNet, you're on board with Flux, used it from day one, and you're still not getting where you want, oftentimes if you take a step back and just, get better at Photoshop, learn Blender, learn After Effects. You're going to blow your own mind, I think, and get much further with that.
No, that's definitely something I'm a major advocate of, because I firsthand, I see the power of being able, like, the real control with this stuff really seems to come in when you start putting all these different pieces of the traditional puzzle together with all these new things we're kind of being bombarded with on a weekly basis. So I'm a really big advocate of that. It's great to hear someone else who's a professional say that as well. Maddie, sorry, I know that you had something you wanted to ask him right when I asked that question.
Well, yeah, Albert, you were talking about the script. I'd love if you could tell us a little bit more about the story, about some of the characters that you've built out. And I'm not sure if you've made a Bible for the TV show, but I'd love if you could walk us through maybe where you see the series going. You know, we talked a little bit about how it started, and I'd love to hear what that next chapter is for episode 2, for the rest of the full 10 episode series. If you could walk us through that.
Oh, absolutely. So we kind of approached it pretty scientifically, and the characters are, of course, definitely going to keep being developed throughout the first season, especially because a lot of this was struggling through tech. I didn't spend as much time with the characters as I would have liked, because there was a writer, thankfully, that took that over for us. But the interesting thing about kids shows specifically is that kids luckily tend to attach to characters much more easily than adults, which surprised me early on in the process. So the first time we showed it to kids, for example, I was really wary, are they going to like this? Yeah, absolutely. There's a cute cat. It needs to be rescued. Entertainment gold.
Boxes have been checked.
Exactly. Yeah. And we even had an expert, because we're super lucky here in Bavaria, especially, to have a lot of public support for entertainment projects, both monetarily, but also with consulting. So we had an actual scientist come in, Dr. Maya Götz, who has done over 200 studies on what entertains children. I didn't know this was possible, but she really had all angles going. And she explained it to us. There are various needs you need to show, or you need to sorry, I have my German brain on now, but you need to have reflected in your series for kids to really connect with it. So a lot of it is showing kids that they can be trusted, right? Like, they are their own person and they're able to do things by themselves if you let them and if you show them a little bit of support. So we have this character of Little Nova, the daughter, who has her first trip aboard the ship of the Space Vets. And she's kind of the main connecting point, obviously, because she's the only child aboard. That's the first character that the kids will connect with. But there's also every other character has a function to support that. So Dr. Leaf, the scientist, he educates the child so she can have the information that she needs to solve problems on her own. Then the cat obviously is just a cat. That's simple. Cute animals always work.
The cats never have to do anything more than just be.
Exist.
But even there, if the cat's on screen, the child will connect with that cat and feel like the cat. So if the cat's in danger, the child is in danger and therefore very excited and wants to be rescued or wants to help in some way. The mother figure, Captain Nova, of course, is super important to show, this kind of adult attention that the kid is constantly getting and being treated as a fellow crew member. Protector, wolf character, Fletcher is there to it's all about supporting the child in her mission to develop her skills and confidence, basically, to simplify it dramatically.
Oh, awesome, man. So I'm curious, with how much you are using AI in the pipeline here, based on things that are currently available to us to use, which I'm sure you stay very up to date with, because if you're doing this professionally, you always kind of want the edge and you want to make sure, like, if there's a better way to be doing something, how can I be doing that, right? Is there anything that we currently do not have available to us on the AI side of things that you hope will come into play sometime in the near future? Like, what would be the next thing you would hope kind of gets dropped on the community?
I would love more open source development of audio tools, like voice specifically, because that's such an essential part of this project. Episode 2 is already going to sound better because we have a research project going on, but that's also being gatekept a little from us, right? Because there's a lot of companies and consultants who have done some work in that direction that we can't just install and use. And you can tell if you watch the episode. Full transparency, I think that's the weakest part of it, is the emotions in the voices. Because what we did was we did actually record voice actors, a male and a female voice, and ran that through a speech-to-speech tool to kind of adjust it to the different characters. But the emotions got lost in that process a lot. We really had to we were screaming in the voice booth and overacting everything, and still it just kind of has this monotone effect to it.
Yep.
It's fine. It could be a lot better. So I would really be excited about the sound catching up with video and image.
So okay, before we get to that question that I just had on the screen, talking about the audio stuff, being that you are in the industry, do you feel like that the audio side of things is maybe just as, if not more, a little bit in like a gray type of area and a little bit more nebulous when it comes to talking about it on the professional side of things, because voice actors and just like everything that goes along with it, is that something that you think kind of comes into play why we don't see more rapid development on the voice side of things, maybe from open source, even though there's so much great audio stuff now? It's definitely the best it's ever been. But if someone like you is wanting more from it, what do you think is holding it back?
I think it's a licensing thing for sure. It's, I guess, because unlike images, right? With images, you can have one model that does a whole bunch of different images, so you can prompt whatever you like. But for voices, you can't really do or the way it's being done. There's no general voice model that you first prompt to sound like a specific voice and then give it text to say that, if that makes sense. It's more of a two-step thing. So it's always going to sound like a real person, for now at least. And that person needs to be licensed and paid to have that model. And of course, a working voice actor is probably not going to do that. I did that years ago for a Chinese GPS company. So I'm not counting myself. I've already sold my soul. But that's, I think, a big problem, especially in Germany, funnily enough, because in LA now, deals have been made between the Screen Actors Guild, and I don't remember the name of the platform, but there's a contract now for the first time, so that's going to be a lot easier. In Germany, we couldn't even reach agencies. It's crazy. We didn't get responses, even though we're an established film production company, which is one of the reasons we used talent inside the company with voice acting experience.
Yeah. And speaking of the SAG deals and some of these other ones with the states of companies, I know that you had some strong opinions on LinkedIn. I wondered if you wanted to speak to any of those, of how voice is being used, especially for these film production or use cases for people licensing or for other people licensing their voice. I wonder if you had a particular ethos or pathos for how you're going to be responsibly using some of those voice models or voice actors.
Yeah, you're probably referring to my LinkedIn comments about 11 Labs recently, just to get to that example immediately. 11 Labs released a feature where you could have Judy Garland read things for you. And of course, she passed away quite a while ago, and is pretty much the example for Hollywood basically torturing an actor against her will to perform. And I mean, she died very young because of that, in part. And I think it's morally more than questionable to revive her voice, to do the bidding of the world, not just Hollywood now. Her daughter signed off on it, so I'm just going to have to accept that, right? But in my opinion, it feels very, very wrong still, just ethically. I don't know if she would have agreed to that herself. I think there's the biggest difference we have to make always, especially in regards to training data in general, is it collected to train a general model or a specific model designed to copy that style, right? I think there's a big difference between using Stable Diffusion XL or a LoRa trained on Greg Rutkowski's paintings against his will and express wishes. So I wouldn't use that LoRa specifically, honestly, because I know, okay, this was made specifically to copy him. But of course, I'm using SDXL all the time and trying in my prompting and using our internal code of conduct to not consciously imitate someone without asking them, of course, with permission, it's fine.
So this is, and this kind of opens up a larger discussion. And the question here is, okay, if there is a LoRa trained on a specific artist's work to like actually imitate their work, right? But if that same artist is inside the larger data set for the base model, if you're not calling on that artist, but their work is still in that melting pot of data, where is the ethical line drawn at the final output and at the end product that you put out into the world? Like, because my view has kind of been, if the thing that I end up outputting is transformational enough that when people look at it, they, aside from maybe being able to tell this is clearly AI, if they can't pinpoint an artist or a work or anything that it replicates, then for me, it passes that transformation test, right? This is now transformative enough that it's not considered a copy of anything. Would you agree that that's kind of where that is a fair line, or do you think there's still like more conversation and thought that has to go into that?
I mean, I agree that it's mostly unproblematic in the end. I mean, there's a lot to be said about good faith. Of course, that's difficult to pinpoint at what point something is made in good faith. But if you're obviously, by achieving a result that looks different from the artist that may be involved in the LoRa or the training or even the prompt, I think that's fine. For ourselves, we've decided to just not even do that at all. Like, we don't pick any LoRa's that we mix and match as soon as we can tell that it was really designed to bring in a specific style, a specific person or a trademark or so forth, just as a company choice, I think. Because it's also, if for whatever reason, because the legal landscape is changing constantly, right? We keep a very, very clear record of what we did and how we did it. And as soon as you have that little taste, I think, where, okay, this image doesn't look at all like this, but Pixar and Disney are in the prompt, that's just an unnecessary risk, honestly, just from a legal standpoint, to even have that in the prompt. Aside from being difficult and ambiguous.
Just to add to that, all you guys out there that are making all the funny stuff of Super Mario and Peach and Bowser, Nintendo's the last ones you guys want to mess with. Very rarely will I touch anything that has to do with Nintendo, so be careful, guys.
Exactly. Albert, you spoke to SDXL, you spoke to these various LoRa's. Are there any ones that you really love that you want to call out? I'm not sure if you have found any on Civitai, have fine-tuned some of those yourself. But I think especially for that production, people would love to know which ones you've found success with.
So in general, especially for the Cirrus, for example, I mean, we're massive fans of an older model at this point. I'm sure there are current updates, but back then we were working a lot with Juggernaut and the creator of Juggernaut. That's classic for realism and movie quality stills. Mohawk is a great one that we enjoy. For the Space Vets specifically, we did our own fine tune and several merges. That, of course, is our secret sauce. But Civitai is of course, the main resource. I wouldn't even know where else to look, honestly. It's just the platform to get checkpoints and LoRa's, of course. So
I want to rewind to one of the questions that I pulled up earlier. So Eurotaku asked if you guys are using your own hardware to do all the work on these shows and animations, or if you guys have like an external cloud compute service that you're using to get the work done.
Mm-hmm. So we keep all the work on our own little AI farm. We have a bunch of powerful computers in our office, which, of course, again, to come back to the professional film production work, especially in Germany, we put a lot of value in data privacy and security. So as soon as you're working for any streaming services, that's on lockdown. I mean, they're being difficult with AI anyway, but we have the same rules in place that we would for any other film production. So nothing leaves our servers on the visual sense. Of course, with audio, as I mentioned, you have to rely on online services.
Could you speak to some of that German film scene? I think for us, we are, most of my knowledge is about the guilds and unions in Hollywood, but I think that Germany has really thriving film culture, especially with what you're doing at Pantaflix, and they seem pretty open-minded to using these tools as long as they're used responsibly. And I think in one of our conversations in the past, you mentioned you're close to some of the universities that Stable Diffusion originated out of. Is that correct? I'm not sure if that's the Black Forest Labs team or some of the other researchers.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't claim that I'm close to that team specifically, but of course, just by being in Munich, we have access to a lot of people at LMU, which developed the original latent diffusion algorithm, and that became both Stable Diffusion and now Black Forest Labs and Flux. We also have the first film school worldwide that started an AI department in possibly even 21, but definitely 22, and a professor who teaches this stuff, and they have they're just on the cutting edge all the time, which was super surprising to me because they're also one of the oldest film schools, and I thought they would not accept this in any way, shape, or form. But no, they got immediate support from the state and started building. And we did too. Like I mentioned it briefly with the space vets, with the consulting, but on an AI, from an AI standpoint as well, the public grants have been very positive, coming by and looking at what we're building. And their whole creed basically boils down to, are there artists being supported here? If we support you, will you create more culture here in this state? And if yes, of course, you will get the support you need, which is exactly right, and surprising, but welcome.
What was that film school? If you could shout it out, maybe some people might want to apply.
Yeah, it's the HFF, the Hochschule für Fernsehen und Film, so college for TV and film. It's the same school that Roland Emmerich actually studied at. So some of you might know him from, what was the most recent one? The Moonfall and Day After Tomorrow. So he made it big in Hollywood. Yeah. Not even going to try to pronounce. I see in the comments. Don't bother. No.
Well, go ahead, Tyler.
No. Go for it.
Well, you're speaking to some of the those other directors. I'm wondering, just for your own story as an artist and as a filmmaker, what have been some of the biggest inspirations for you, not only leading to this project, but for developing your skills as a writer, for having that critical eye? I think no matter the tech being used, there has to be that talented creator and that artist behind it. So I'm wondering how you kind of cultivated that skills, or what got you to where you are now.
I mean, I'm unashamedly all about entertainment. So anything that is just fun to watch, I want to be able to make. I don't have any, I don't have an artistic bone in my body, I think, to be, I'm like not in the art house independent scene sense. So Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Ghostbusters, and Back to the Future are my favorite movies. Just classic Spielberg, Lucas type things. I mean, as I got a little older, of course, also stuff like Alien is back and trendy again. So shout out to Alien Romulus. In general, to actually learn the craft, I can recommend books like Story by Robert McKee. Absolute classic, incredible foundation to just learn how a good story is written. Also, I think he's still around. He's a very old man at this point, but if you can get to one of his in-person workshops, definitely try to get there, Robert McKee. And I read as many biographies by writers as I could, including novelists too, like Stephen King has a great one called On Writing. Absolutely fantastic resource to really, because it is a craft. Like Kurt Vonnegut, I read this recently again, I think in 2004, possibly earlier, already said that story structures are so simple that they can be fed into computers. And if that's not prophetic, I don't know what is. It's a science. It's a formula. You just need to know how to use it.
Awesome, man. So for anyone that is, how much pushback do you actually feel like you find in your industry as someone who is in it? We see everything from the outside and we hear about, everyone being against AI and fighting with it, and we get the brunt of that as well. But as someone who is working in the film industry with filmmakers, what is that conversation actually feeling like? And do you feel like it is slowly being more accepted?
Definitely. I think at this point, by far the most pushback I get is online from anonymous accounts on Reddit. In real life, really, it's as soon as you go outside and go to events and actually talk to people, and especially not only show people your own AI work, but let them try something, they're on board. Very rarely do you get pushback, and if you do, it's legit. Like one of the statements that made me really think and recognize a huge problem is an actress who said, okay, I get it. I'm getting it now, what you do. It is cool. It has a lot of potential. But what about the next generation? How are young people starting out supposed to learn the skills and the language, for example? I mean, in order to prompt a good-looking movie still, you do on some level need to understand the language of film, like what shots you can use, what lenses are possible, film grain, 35 millimeter, all that sort of stuff has meaning that we all know because we were here before AI, and you would traditionally learn just by helping out on a set. And if there is no set, we need to foster all these assistant positions that might now be taken over by an AI. Even just script reading and analysis, right? Toss it into ChatGPT 5 or 6 and you might get some really great work that an intern could not have done. But that intern needs to exist.
Yeah. And we all needed that time to cultivate those years of being a PA or being in that writer's room to even get to the point we are now. Yeah, I wonder how... I think one of my issues with a lot of the big AI companies is that they offer platitudes. They say jobs are going to change, or, it's sometimes a naive approach to, like what you were saying with some of the job replacement things, rather than providing some of those tangible solutions, whether it's education, whether it's, helping students learn it. As an educator, have you found some success for either that, young people have been receptive to, or for those who are critical of it, for being able to change their perspective?
Yeah, I mean, what we're doing right here is part of that for sure. Just talking about it and showing the possibilities and showing that people who are from the media industry, who are artists, are finding value in it, rather than, these companies that you mentioned, right, just saying, oh, here's this incredible tool. And then you look behind it and it's some Silicon Valley company, which may or may not have artists aboard, but might seem like it's just another one of those ideas where tech bros think they can replace something, but actually can't. So we need to make very clear, I mean, you at Civitai are doing it perfectly by even having these live streams and fostering a community of artists, need to be communicating that there are people behind this that know what they're doing. There was another part of your question that I'm sorry, it's very late here.
All good, man. All good. We definitely appreciate you jumping on in the time it is over there with us.
Yeah, no worries. I'm still awake. I talked a lot today.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about how some of the people who are the most talented or who will be the most talented at using the tools are those who are most vehemently against it in many cases, where there's that stigma attached to even getting started, to playing around with it. And sometimes those of us on the AI filmmaking side, it's often pitted as AI filmmakers versus traditional filmmakers. When the way I see it is we're two sides of the same coin. Everyone wants to tell stories at the end of the day. The AI filmmakers are great at being early adopters of the technology, and the traditional filmmakers are wonderful at crafting narratives and characters. So how do you bring those two together? Because sometimes for people, it's their first time ever making a film. Their AI film, they've never, picked up a mini, a handy cam or even, something with an SD card. So some of those foundational storytelling skills of being able to have that artistic taste, or when you're reading a script, how do you determine what's good or what's not good? So I think that's really a big challenge for the industry as a whole to get over.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad more and more people are speaking publicly from the established film industry. I feel comfortable saying this publicly because he's done an interview recently. Rob Minkoff, the director of Lion King, he's fully on board with AI. And you would think, he went through that whole traditional Disney animation school of thought where he was drawing himself with his hands. So the exact type of person that you would imagine is aggressively against AI. I was very lucky to speak to him several times about this. And his approach right now is to accept that AI can't do everything that he might want, but just by learning that, he comes up with new stories and new scenes that will work. And it's that collaboration. He'll just accept what I tell him from an AI standpoint, what can work and what doesn't. And I'll accept what his wishes are, and we meet somewhere in the middle, and that's what we need to be doing, right? Because from AI, I might not find the coolest shot. He knows what the coolest shot is, and we'll figure it out together. So that communication needs to happen in public, I think.
I really enjoy thinking about all this stuff as more of, well, one, it's just another tool in the tool belt. Let's get that straight. Like, it's anyone who wants to do everything with it is going to definitely have a lot more hurdles to get over to get to a finished product that they probably really love and that people resonate with. To me, it's just another tool in the tool belt. It is a very handy tool in that tool belt. But at the end of the day, it's like it's all about the idea and it's all about the story. And I personally, even being someone who stares at, works with, touches, talks to people in AI every day, I can't see a place where we get to the human being completely taken out. Because at the end of the day, we have a different life experience every day, and those life experiences that we have every day shape our creativity and our taste and our ideas. And like, sure, an AI can be trained on all of our previous experiences, but that's still a continuous evolving thing, especially as the world changes, and those experiences lead to new stories. So yeah, I don't see the person ever getting taken out of the process.
And on the audience side too, I think people and consumers, they resonate with stories and characters that speak to their personal experiences. I think if they often say, oh, AI film, it's going to lead to the super hyper personalized kind of what's the word echo chamber of you're only going to be getting the content that you care about. But in a way, that might not be the worst of things. I think, imagine you're scrolling on TikTok or social media. My dream is that each of those videos, instead of being a prank video or on the street interview, what if those could be a personal story, a short film? I think it once some of these barriers to entry for the actual production process go away, where there aren't those gatekeepers to production, to distribution as well, it really changes things. I wonder, Albert, too, what you think of even looking up very far in the future, maybe even when we're all gone, of when these hard skills don't matter, when it's just whoever has the best idea and can either execute or describe that film idea. What does that look like, in terms of both for those creators and also the people watching it?
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like barriers and just limitations that happen on set, some simple things like that, can become part of the story and be the reason why something is created the way it is. So, I mean, I guess when I was 7 or 8 years old, I thought I knew what movie I wanted to make. And that's that idea. If I had prompted an AI to turn that into something exactly the way I imagined it, I don't think it would have been very good. So unless that AI fixed it, right, and made it into something cool. So I think technologically we'll definitely reach that point. And I agree with that statement that was in the chat earlier with I can see the person getting taken out of the process in 7 years. Technically, yes, AI will be able to make very, very cool entertainment. I think one piece of the puzzle that isn't spoken about often is the whole marketing side of it even. You mentioned TikTok. The reason I watched The Last of Us series wasn't because I was into the game. I hadn't played it at all. It's because I saw Pedro Pascal go on Hot Ones and just be an absolute joy of a human being. So I was like, oh, wow, okay, I'm going to go watch it for this guy. And if he doesn't exist and is just some AI model face, even if you made an episode of Hot Ones with that fake person, it wouldn't reach me as emotionally because that's fake. I want that to be a real guy suffering. If that makes sense, right?
Okay, so here's a question then on that note, because I'm sure you tell me if I'm correct on this sentiment, because this is just my uninformed view of it, is large film studios, and let's just say corporations, the conglomerates, whatever, in general, will always try to find the way to squeeze productivity wherever they can. And I'm sure as NVIDIA and GPUs and all this good stuff gets better and better, that squeeze will get tighter and tighter because they have the ability to do so. I don't think there's any way around that. That being said, bringing it back to the film side of things, do you think where we are right now, we're going to see a rise in smaller film studios and more indie style studios being able to really jump up and make their mark even more so than they have in the past? Because one, with all the new technology that's happening, smaller teams that aren't so tied to these large, crazy studio pipelines can move nimbly and can adapt quicker to new technology and things that are coming out. Or do you think the larger studios are really just going to still have a chokehold on everything?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be too prideful, but there's a reason why Space Vets is one of the first of its kind, and it's coming from a 5-person team and not a big studio. These are such big companies, they would cannibalize themselves to some degree by launching something like that. Like it's the reason Canon didn't start making the best film cameras or like video cameras immediately, because the mirrorless ones, because they have this DSLR department that they need to keep afloat. And the same thing will happen. Smaller teams will absolutely pop out of the ground like mushrooms, I think, making incredible work and overtake the big ones until they become the big ones, right? And then it's the next the next wave.
Next iteration.
Pixar only happened because John Lasseter was kicked out of Disney because they didn't believe in his 3D idea, right? So, and now they're of course massive and belong to Disney, and now it's time for the next one. So there's always going to be this constant exchange of companies. I don't think it can be stopped. I think it's a good development, as long as we have to loosen up the chokeholds on occasion. But there are more people working in animation today than in Walt Disney's day, even though it's never been easier to make an animated movie. So saying that just because technology will replace people, there's going to be a massive amount of job loss forever is just not true. There's going to be more jobs than ever, because it's always been that way. Why would it be any different this time?
I agree.
And taking a look at the future, what's really next for both yourself, for Storybook, for Space Vets? Are you trying to, is the full series in production? Are you trying to use that pilot as a pitch for getting the production budgets and then being able to take that to streaming, if you're able to talk about that strategy?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's two aspects, right? One is Space Vets as a product itself. We want to continue this, and we're already working on episode 2, and we want to just make that, ideally with a partner. We're looking for distribution. And of course, the workflow itself. So with the process we've developed here, we can make pretty much any story right now. So if, I don't know, Netflix comes running and says, okay, hey, Space Vets, that's used up, that's on your website now, but how about this concept? We can do that as well. So I think we're going to do a lot more kids animation in general, because it just works. We've kind of figured that out now. And long term, of course, we already see the tools getting better and better. I'm sure that more realistic adult content like the Cirrus is definitely on the horizon. And I personally would find that very exciting, of course, because I want to do my Star Wars.
Nice. Yeah, if you did have unlimited budget, no creative constraints, you knew you were going to get distribution already, you mentioned your Star Wars, what would be that film that you'd want to go all in on?
That's such a fundamentally interesting question. It's a little scary too, because it's pretty much the same question that AI is asking us all right now, where I'm realizing, because 2 years ago I would have thought, I don't have the right tools, so I can't do everything I'm thinking of. And now I kind of do, and I realize all these dreams I had are not nearly as concrete as I thought they were.
Those 2 a.m. sticky notes.
Yeah.
A film that could do X, Y, and Z.
Isn't it funny how that's kind of a universal thing for a lot of people in creative fields? It's like, oh, if I only had this tool, I could do this. And then when you finally get your hands on it, you're like,
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously we do have drawers full of concepts that are already completely fleshed out, like any production company does. Even if you're making German comedy films, there's always that one fantasy and that one science fiction script laying around that we want to tackle, which is how the Cirrus happened. That script was a couple years old. It's 800 pages that my colleague Toby wrote as a novel now. Wow. It's more than ready to be produced. And that's why the trailer seems like it has a story behind it, because it literally does. So we have lots of stuff that we can tackle. And as do I. I just have to bring it up to my team once it's just a little more polished.
Well, look, man, we know it is super late for you over there. This has been such a great conversation. Thank you so much for coming and joining us and sharing everything you're doing and your insights with the community. Why don't you go ahead and give yourself a shout out and let everyone who's watching right now know where they can find you, where they can keep up with you, and if there's anything you're working on right now that they should be watching out for, please let them know.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This was a wonderful conversation. I'm glad it wasn't a slideshow. I've been giving lots of talks lately, and finally we had really some in-depth conversation amongst AI experts. So thank you so much for your time. And I mean, Space Vets is the main project. Please share that. Show it to your kids. I'm so glad kids actually like it. So those are my favorite compliments. Studio execs can say what they like about it, but the kid compliments are the best. And StorybookStudios.ai, that has all of our projects. And I'm at Albert Bozesan, so just my name, on YouTube, on Instagram, and anywhere else. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn too. That's where I'm most active.
What's
Amazing.
the best place to watch Space Vets and to share it?
Mm-hmm. That's on our website. So StorybookStudios.ai/space-vets. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Albert, we are definitely going to circle back with you in a couple months and have you on again. Good luck on everything that you guys are doing. Hope nothing but success for storybooks, and hopefully Disney comes and wants to Pixar you guys.
The door is open.
You'll take your money, no problem. Yeah.
With that being said, before we hop off, Maddie, why don't you go ahead and let the people know who we have coming on, I believe next Friday for our guest creator stream.
Great. Yeah. So it was great to get connected with Albert this time. I'll be joining some of these streams, bringing on kind of a different perspective for filmmakers from the community. We have the open source side, but I think there's so much, especially from all around the world, that we're going to be trying to bring to the stream, from different founders, from different companies, from filmmakers working on cool projects at these AI native studios like Storybook. So next week, we're going to have Gabe Michael from the kind of marketing PR world, who's won 2 Runway Gen 48 competitions. He won the Best Odyssey Superlative and Fabric AI Award in this past Project Odyssey competition. He's a great guy, and we're excited to talk with him more about his experiences and his film. So hope you tune in, and looking forward to seeing you next week. Same time, 3 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. UTC. Is that correct, Tyler?
I think it's 6 p.m. UTC.
6 p.m.
But just 3 p.m. Pacific. Punch that into Google. It'll tell you what time that is. We will be back on Monday. Ali will be here with office hours Monday and Wednesday. And I think on Thursday, we're going to do another AI artist hour. And I'll let you guys know who or what group of people that is going to be. So with that being said, Albert, sir, thank you. You are an absolute legend. Continue doing the good work in the traditional professional side of things while we do everything over here with all of the wonderful degenerates on Civitai.com. So
thank you so much.
And it was really great talking to you guys. Go follow Albert. Go to Storybook Studio. Was it StorybookStudio.ai?
Studios.ai, yeah.
StorybookStudio.ai. Watch the videos, share them, and if you have kids, show them what's possible. My name is Tyler. This is Civitai.com. Maddie, thank you, sir. We'll be back on Monday, guys. Have a wonderful weekend. Go use Flux on the website. If you guys haven't seen it yet, Purs, Binks, and Machine Delusions did a stream yesterday on Purs' YouTube channel, and they did a deep dive into the LoRa trainer on Civitai for training LoRa's. So if you're trying to figure that out, go watch their stream. You'll get some really great stuff. Come on, train a LoRa, share it with the community. I want to make cool stuff in the generator, and I want to spend all my buzz on stuff that you guys make. So have a great weekend, everyone. We'll catch you next week. Civitai.com.